And by the way, if you're out there and you want to play music for a living, like let's say music is your dream and you want to play for a living, here's my advice. Okay, take it from a guy that's been around music for a long time. Play drums.
You know who Taylor Swift is? You know that she re-recorded all her albums because there is some kind of, and I could be getting this wrong. I hope this Taylor Swift fans don't come after me.
Taylor Swift is like the biggest name right now. She's probably making multi-millions dollars off of playing her art. They brought her up. They put out the money, I'm sure when she was starting. They made the investment and they took the risk. What is the problem? What's the problem? I mean, mission accomplished. Done. Go write another album.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Speak of the Madmen Podcast 20. After a long 19 podcast, but this is the 20th podcast, Joey. How are you feeling?
0.
How are you feeling?
You know, I feel pretty good because I just came back from Bolsa Chica doing this walking tour down there. I filmed that you could check out on my other YouTube channel, Walking the Earth in 4K. Just thought I'd put a plug in for that, but I feel pretty good because it was a nice little nature walk. There's a lot of birds and stuff like that. I got probably about 8,000 steps in right before this podcast, so I feel pretty good with that. Took a nice shower, jumped in this seat, and to be ready to do Speak of the Madman to bring this here tonight. This is our 20th one, and it's really nice to get to this milestone. Really happy about that. We got some things to talk about today that I look forward to speaking about, and you know we'll see how it goes, right? So,
Well, I was just gonna say that for myself, yeah, this is 20 podcasts. We've done this for a little bit, about a year now, over a year and some change, and yeah, it's just very, very cool, very fun to come here and converse, talk about music and what's happening in the music world, opposed to other stuff. Stuff like festivals is really, really fun. And I think the process itself is very cool. Having set up a little bit of lights, camera, action on both of our sets, basically. And I think it's just very cool. It's almost therapeutic, as we both said many times on and off the podcast. Doing it kind of takes us out. And it takes us out of the grander world, and it's just you and I in our audience, and we can just chat and have fun about just chatting away. It's what we do. I think that the process has been, if you from episode 1 to now, you can see all the great edits, the great additions, and the upgrades the show has went through. Very, very cool.
yeah, I mean, there's definitely an evolution of our podcast as time goes on. You figure out how to do things a little better. We just evolve, and we just get. I feel like we get better and better with doing this podcast, learning different types of things to do. It's a learning process. It's sort of like an adventure along the way because it's having fun while doing it, but learning different things about it. So we're definitely far away from the first podcast that we did. Definitely, and we're getting better, trying out different things, trying out different camera positions and stuff like that, and just other technical stuff. But I mean, I like it. I like the way things are. I like our setup. I kind of went for the more intimate look, which I think it works for us. another thing too. I mean, we just kind of just we do this for fun, and we do this. We talk about what we want to talk about. You know, it's completely free to talk about whatever we want to talk about. So we hope you enjoy it, though.
No, and with that being said, the question that's always going through our minds, not maybe for the last few episodes, but kind of the thesis of our whole podcast is, Joey, what have you been listening to? Is a question I've always asked.
Right. So I put out that short a couple days ago, um, entitled "What New Metal Bands Are You Listening to?" And I got one comment that was sent back to us. Brandon Matthew, this bud's for you, buddy. Because I'll tell you what, commented, you put in Silverstein, and guess what? I was listening to on that walk. You got it, Silverstein. Um, Now this is a band that I've listened to previously, so they're not. It's nothing new to me. I'm already familiar with them. I used to listen to back in the day. Um, when I think the first album, "When Broken Is Easily Fixed," and "Discovering the Waterfront." Those two albums. Uh, Screamo. This is a screamo type of music. Um, I feel like the screamo stuff was 20 years ago. That's when it was really popular. I might have. I'm not really sure where it's at now. But it just. I don't want to say it's been pigeonholed, but I was getting the sense that maybe it might have been pigeonholed because heavy metals I think holds the test of time a little. It holds the test of time a lot better. But the screamo, it just seems like it lives in 2000 or something like that. But yeah, I was listening to when Broken was fixed, and I liked it, but it seemed. I'll be honest with you, okay? I'm going to be honest. It seemed a little dated to me. Um, and then I listened to Discovering the Waterfront, same thing. Um, but and then I put on the latest album, which is called Misery Made Me. They came out last year. I thought I put on a Sum 41 album. It sounded just like them. And honestly, I'll tell you what. I mean, I listened to it one time around. Then I came back home. I was listening to it. I actually like that album better than the old first two albums, which I'm kind of surprised. I'm liking it more because it sounds. First of all, I had a genre shock with that album from the previous records, but I actually think that they've matured a lot more from those early albums, obviously. But they really sound like they've changed. They've changed. I think they changed for the good. It sounds better to me. Um, they were catchy. They're catchy, the tunes and everything like that. Seem like, but they certainly sound like they've kind of moved away from the screamo aspect, and they're a little more like, I would say, like a Sum 41 type of sounding music is what it sounded like to me. Uh, but I guess this is a Canadian band from Victory Records. I think they were on Victory since 2010, and then after that they might have went to Hopeless, I think, and a couple other labels. But what I was kind of surprised is they got 11 studio albums, uh, which is pretty surprising. I didn't realize that they put out that many albums. I mean, I also was listening to Rivals and Departures, uh, which I actually thought that album was sounding pretty solid. I listened to Shipwreck in the Sand too, briefly. I didn't listen to the other albums, but I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what, Brandon. I listened to 4 albums for you, okay, buddy? Because I told you that I would. I'm a man of my word. You mentioned it. I listened to 4 albums from Silverstein, and I have to say that the Rivals Departures and the newest album actually caught my attention. I think I liked it a little more just because it sounded more mature. Their sound like they figured some things out. It just sounds the songwriting sounds better, the recording sounds better. Uh, Yeah, I think that they evolved into a pretty solid thing. I think it didn't sound like the early stuff. The early stuff sound like they're trying to still figure things out a little bit. But I still like some of those tunes from the first two albums. But yeah, um, they're solid band. Uh, Definitely haven't listened to them in a while, but I really appreciate you bringing them up. And yeah, thank you for that because I did listen to their tunes today, and it was a good time.
So I've listened to it, and I've really listened to that first album. Don't remember a lot from them because I was looking at the same time. You're right; they're kind of pigeonholed into that area of the early 2004, 2005. Victory Records was their, as you said, was their label, and along with Victory Records, along with that band, Victory Records also had Thursday, Hawthorne Heights, which is a band that I really enjoy, and Taking Back Sunday are the two bands I remember from that area, from that era and that time. So I guess that was just more of the music I listened to from Victory Records. But yeah, Victory Records, a solid company. Um, they all kind of sound the same, but yet kind of different in their own ways. All those bands.
It seems to me like a pretty cool label. I used to know somebody when I was buying my records from my eBay store. A guy named Mike. So shout out to Mike from Victory Records. I don't think it probably doesn't work there anymore. It's been a long time ago, like 14 years ago. But they were really cool, man. They always sell me. They always send me like free posters all the time, and they always send their records on time. It seems to me from the outskirts, they seem like a pretty good record label. They actually had a lot of bands that have really made something of themselves, like Taking Back Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
Hawthorne Heights. Those bands have really went on and really developed themselves into like a household name, um, touring and making a living off their music now. So those bands are fairly good sized bands now, and as far as popularity is concerned. Um, so they seem like they're a pretty good label, Victory, to be on if you're that type of music. That's the little label with the dog on the pit
Yep.
bull on it. I think it is. Yeah,
A bulldog, right? The bull.
yeah, it's a bulldog. Yeah, so yeah, so shout out to Victory Records. Appreciate you guys and all the hard work that you did putting my orders together. Um, Loud and Fast Records. Uh, so thank you for that. Um, I never really listened to Hawthorne Heights too much. They were a little too emo for me, but I do like Taking Back Sunday. I
Mm-hmm.
like their first album.
Yep.
And Where You Want to Be, their second album. I don't know if we really talked too much about them here on Speak of the Madman, and I realize it's if some of our audience is bunch of metalheads. This is not really the genre. We're kind of going on a little bit on outside this lane a little bit. But I don't know. Everybody's got their own taste, and I think these bands definitely are worth a shot listening to. But if you don't like it, you don't like it. I mean, like Taking Back Sunday is one of those bands that either you like it or you don't like it. Like either you're gonna dig on the vocals, or you're not gonna like it. You know what I mean? It's just not gonna be for you. So I don't know if there's any in between with a band like that.
So for
You know what I mean?
me, for my 2 cents on that fact, I've always been the proponent of like, I never understood those people who only like one type of music, and I had a friend who liked no music, and I didn't like him very much after that, but I don't those people who like I only listen to metal, I only listen to rap, I only listen to country. I feel like there's so much there's like I don't understand the thought process because music has always been can be a very evoke emotion, and it can evoke a time and place in your life, and there's just so much that comes out of listening to different types of music. Like I grew up, I probably said this on the podcast or just in general speaking with you or people is I grew up, I was listening to hardcore hip hop, the 90s hip hop, the gangster rap from the 90s from my older brother. I was listening to, from my dad, I was listening to like the oldies, to like, Kiss, Zeppelin, stuff from the 70s, kind of the hard rock. To me, and then I growing up, so I was growing up listening to those two types of music. So then I made my lane in both. Like I enjoy hip hop music. I enjoy rock and metal. What I found my alley is when I found metal is when I was, listening to MTV, or when I was playing the Tony Hawk games, the games that had really cool soundtracks that had all different types of music. So it's like, I'm not trying to rag on anyone who only likes one type of music, but it never made sense to me. Like, how can you be so close minded in only one category of music, when there's it's like it can invoke so much feelings of different states of your life. So like for me, I enjoy metal. Like that's always been my favorite. But so on Wednesday, I can listen to hardcore hip hop, and then the next day I'll listen to like I don't know, this band that I was listening to because of my friend, and this band is called, and I was listening to it the other day. Is I'm not sure, Joey, if you listen to him. There's a band called Krokus. You know the band?
No, I've never heard of them.
Krokus.
Krokus. I've heard of that other band that sounds similar to that. What? Carcass.
No, no. I do like Carcass too.
But I haven't heard of Crocus.
Crocus. Crocus.
No.
Okay, so I'll pull up the all-knowing Wikipedia. Crocus, a Swiss hard rock heavy metal band formed in 1974. From they were popular in North America during the 1980s. So that time of hair bands and thrash metal. And he was listening to it. A work friend. He was listening to in the office. I'm like, this band is very cool. He was listening to a really cool song, and he started playing their album for me, and now I'm hooked. I think it's a very cool band. And the album I was listening to, if anyone's really cares for, let me see where I can find it. It's certified gold. It's called Headhunter by Krokus. It's their seventh album. And,
Headhunter?
Yep, Headhunter. And the song is called Eat the Rich, which I think is pretty funny. So I think it's a Motorhead has a song. I'm not sure who came out first, called Eat the Rich. But Krokus, old school metal bands from the 80s or 70s. But so give them a look, give them a chance. I think they're really rad.
Yeah, I've never. Crocus is like, that's the first time I've ever even heard of that. Is that with a K?
Yep. I'll spell it out for you. Krokus. Krokus.
That's how I thought it was going to be spelled. Yeah. Oh man, no, I haven't heard that one. There's so many bands out there, bro. You know what I mean? It's almost like you should have a license to be able to have a band. There's too many of them out there, and I think you should have to like be at a certain level, dude, of goodness to be able to even play music. Sometimes, because there's just so many people that have music out there that you got to have a license to play, man, or something, dude.
And that's what I mean about like people like only liking one type of music. Like there's so much music in every like bands you even know. Like
I mean, right?
crazy.
But there's so many bands out there. But what I mean to say, there's so many bad bands out there. You have to weed through go through the weeds and all kinds of stuff before you find a gem. Like you have to go through so much stuff. And I don't know about you, Josh, but I've always found it kind of like a chore to go through bands that don't sound well. To have to like skim through them, and that's maybe why I stick to a lot of bands that I already like a lot, because it's work. It's work to go through some of this stuff and to skim through these things, just like reading a book and seeing if you like it or not. It's work to have to skim, and there's so many bands out there, there's so many bands, and like 90-something% of the bands out there are not any good. You know what I mean? They stay local. They never expand out because they're not good enough to expand out. And I know I've talked about this before, but just really quick, a lot of bands, I remember like in the back in the day, there was always bands that like they weren't big, they were like local, and they would always blame it on like we don't know the right people. You know what I mean? It's who you know. It's always about who you know, and so for somehow they have this misfortune that nobody's picked them up. You know what I mean? They're like this gem that's just sitting there waiting to be picked up, and unfortunate them, nobody's picked them up because they don't know the right people. I think that's a lot of that's BS. It's just that your band is not good. You know what I mean? Like nobody wants to admit their band's not good. But it's really, let me say, Josh, it is really difficult to put a good band together, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is not easy because, especially when you're young, you're going to high school, right? You're hanging out with your friends. Johnny plays bass, Jerry plays guitar, Jim plays the drums, and Jacob sings, right? You get the band together, and Jacob doesn't sound good. But you don't want to tell Jacob anything because he's your friend. So you let Jacob play, and he's bringing you down. Because you know what? You're only as good as your worst member of the band. You're only as good as the worst member of the band. So if your worst member is a singer, you're not going to go anywhere, Jack. So a lot of people don't want to pull bands out. So it's hard to get the chemistry of a band together. And over 90% of the bands don't do this. I mean, they fail. They don't have the chemistry. They don't have the right people working together. They don't have a good singer. The drummer's not. There's all kinds of things, right? And so you have to be like that 5% or less bands that actually come together. It takes luck. It takes luck to come together, to have the right people, and to mesh well together, and to have all the right recipe to form this dish that you're making. And it doesn't come easy, and you have to have a little bit of luck.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, 90% of those bands that don't do well, they think that they're all good. They think that they're just waiting to take off, like they're just one show away from somebody discovering them, and then they're just gonna, go to the moon, right? But the honesty of the whole thing, the fact of the matter is that they're not very good. They've been heard. People have seen them, and there's nobody's still coming to their shows. They're still having to sell tickets individually because that's what you have to do when you play venues. You got to sell tickets. Because they're going to open up the venue. They want to be able to make some money if they're going to open the venue. That costs money to open the venue, so they make you sell tickets, and nobody ever comes to their show, and that's what that is. So I don't think anybody ever mentions that. Nobody ever talks about that, and that's why I'm bringing it up, because that's what I saw, and that's it. You know what I mean? That's how that works. So, but I don't know, what were we talking about?
Remember, guys, catch us. This is Speaking of the Madmen Podcast, episode 20. You can find us here on YouTube, Facebook, and somewhere in the ether that is TikTok. Speak of the Madman. Speak of
We're
the
talking
Madman.
Krokus, and it was just like, and then I started talking about how there's a lot of bands. There's so many bands. There's just everywhere. You know what I mean? And by the way, if you're out there and you want to play music for a living, like let's say music is your dream and you want to play for a living, here's my advice. Okay, take it from a guy that's been around music for a long time. Play drums. Don't play guitar. Don't play bass. Play drums. Learn how to play drums. Learn how to play drums very well. If you learn how to play drums very well, I guarantee you will have work. You will always have bands that are looking for you. There will always be bands for you to play with and go out on tour to record records, and you will make a living probably off your drums if you're good. So get good at drums, and you will be set. You will play music for a living. That is my advice to you. You play guitar, forget it. You're going to be like that 5%, right? That you have to hit. Don't be. You're probably going to be the 95. Don't do that. Don't do what I did and play guitar. Forget about all these guitars back here. Don't even bother with that. And the reason why people don't do that, Josh, right? Most people play guitar. Why do you think most people play guitar, dude?
It's easier and looks cool.
It's easy. It's portable. Mm-hmm. It's one piece. It's soft. Why do you think people don't play drums? Like you can hardly find a drummer. Why is that?
It's hard to find them.
Because there's a lot of components to a drums. Mm-hmm. You got to buy the hardware. You got to buy the cymbals. You got to buy the kick drum. You got to buy the snare. You got to buy the hi-hat. You got to buy the tom-toms. Nobody wants to deal with that. All these complications. Oh, and not to mention they're loud. You live in an apartment? Forget about it. You're going to play drums. Well, nowadays you can play like little stuff, but nobody wants to deal with that. Nobody wants it. nobody wants to touch the drums, right? Everybody grabs like an acoustic guitar, and everybody's a guitar player, right? I'm telling you, if you want to play music for a living, if I was to do it all over again, if I was to talk to my 14-year-old self, I would tell Joey. It's kind of like Back to the Future when he goes back and tries to get him to win the almanac thing. I would talk to myself and go, Joey, listen up, buddy. Listen to me. Play drums. Forget about the guitar. Abandon it. Get on the drums, play really well, and you will make a living off this, and you won't have to go to your 9 to 5 job anymore. Period. That's it. I rest my case.
All right. Well,
I'm telling you because that's what you need to do. If you want to play music for a living, play drums.
well,
Bass, it's like better than guitar. You know what I mean? Like you're going to be a little more wanted with bass. If you're a true bass player, not a guitar player, bass player, right? I'm one of those. A bass player, a pure bass player. If it's not going to be as good though. And if you're a singer, then that's good too. You know, if you're a good lead singer, if you got the look and you can sing well, then you're good too. But drums are like always hired. They're always hired. My friend Justin, he had like 5 bands that he played with. Five bands. Like the guy can go on tour whatever he wants. So yeah, that's what I would do. Anyhow, we were talking about earlier. I'm going to change subject. I don't know, but that really hits me close. That really hits me close to home because I wanted to be a rock star all my life and I couldn't because I play guitar. But to change the subject, we were talking about earlier AI. The Beatles just released a song. What was it called? Now and Then, I think it's called, Josh. The new song. Anyways,
yeah. Now and
I
then
guess
Beatles.
right, Now and Then Beatles, right?
Yep.
So they used AI. So I was a little confused about what they meant by that. At first, when I was listening to it, and they made it seem like it was. I don't know if it sounded like to me like the AI was being the creator, or the AI was finishing the song for them, or something like that. But that's after further review, after reading a couple sources, I realized that that's not what it is. That's not what. Let me explain what this is. If you haven't already read it, the AI what it does. What happened was John Lennon recorded on a cassette tape some music that he was doing in his apartment in New York back in the late 70s. Okay, now there were some songs. I guess they went back from in the mid 90s. They took some songs that were better quality and they released it on the anthology. I can't remember. There's like 2 songs that they did. I think I can't remember the names of the songs. Maybe you can look them up, Josh. I don't know. That there's like 2 songs from the anthology that
It
they
says right
released.
here. It says right here, "Free as a Bird in Real Love." Is that what you're talking about?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So they released those 2 songs. This is back in the night. But the problem was that there was still one song that was left untouched because it was so poorly. I guess the recording was bad. Obviously, late 70s with cassette tape. And John had TV in the background real loud, I guess, or something. It was like in the background. There was a lot of distortion. He was playing piano. It just didn't sound good together. It was a lot of background noise. And so they didn't touch it. They decided just not to touch the song, right? Because it was just, the technology just wasn't there. See, what happened was now, last year, AI. So let me explain, if you haven't already know, this is what AI is doing. AI, what it's doing is it's extracting, it's separating John's voice from his piano and separating from the outside TV noise that was going on, right? So the AI is smart enough to recognize John's voice and to extract it from everything else, to extract it from piano, to extract it to separate. The separation is what the AI is. It's not writing songs. It's not finishing the songs or anything like that. It's not doing any of the creativity part. It's just extracting his vocals. So they extracted his vocals, and then what happened was, I think Harrison. I don't think he liked the song, but he still played guitar on it. And so they came in last year. Ringo and McCartney. They came in and they finished the song up. They finished. So they're Beatles, right? They're 2 Beatles, so they're 2 qualifying members. Totally fine. They recorded the song. They finished it up with George Harrison's parts and stuff like that. And then they were able to complete it and then put John's voice in it. Now, here's the thing. To me, this sounds no different than any band that's going in the studio to record. And when you go in the studio, the first thing that happens, if you haven't ever been in the studio, is you record what they call a scratch track. Okay, this is a live recording. So all of you guys are in there and you play live, guitar, drums, bass, everything's like singing, everything's live, right? Scratch track. Once that's done, then individuals will go in and record. So the drummer will go in usually and play first. He'll record first. Him or her will record first. They'll have in their headphone the scratch track with probably a metronome to make sure the person's playing the same tempo. But they'll have in their headphone the scratch track, and so they can follow along with the song while their drums are being recorded. But their drums are the only thing being recorded. And then they go on to the guitar or the bass for the drummer, then the bass, then the guitar, and then the vocal. So what you're listening to is components of all those instruments in the one, but that's not a live recording, obviously. Those are all played at different times, those instruments. This is no different. The only thing that's different about this is that, obviously Paul and Ringo took about 40 years to lay their tracks down versus 2 days in the studio, right? There's no different. And then John, he's unaware of what's going on. But his vocals are his vocals. That's him. So I really don't see the ethical part of it. I don't see what's unethical about what's going on. Apparently, there's some Beatle purists.
Yep.
I'd like to hear their argument because I don't know what their argument is. I mean, what's the purist that they're missing out on? What is it? You know what I mean? Like what's the unethical thing, or what's the purist? What are they concerned about? Because the AI didn't write the songs for them. They were already written by the Beatles. They were just able to use the technology to put it together, all the components, which are all Beatles, by the way. Anyway, these are qualifying members of the Beatles putting this stuff together with permission. I mean, they're all involved. So I don't see the unethical part of it. Josh, what do you think about it? I mean, what's your opinion about this?
Uh, it's just I'm just trying to put my mind together. It's like I do agree. We live in a time now that technology allows you to do that. As I was reading here, this little about it real fast as what you were saying. The final version features additional lyrics by McCartney and Lennon's voice extracted from a demo using AI-backed audio restoration technology commissioned by Peter Jackson for his 2021 documentary, The Beatles Get Back. Jackson also directed the music video now and then. So I was just more like, see, we live in a time that we can do that, where there is either lost tapes or never released tapes. And let's just say, time passes, or, obviously people do pass away and we never get to hear the finished product. And if this is a way for us to hear some sort of finished product, and yes, it may not be the exact how the person intended to, at least it's something for the fans after all these years. And I think sometimes the purist, like, well, it's not all four of them. It's not the Beatles. It's 2.5 or whatever. And to me, it's like, I'm just happy that, like, I'm not a really big Beatles fan. I do enjoy some of the Beatles songs. That was more of my, mom and dad, they like the Beatles a lot more than I have. But if a band does that, because given that we have technology that allows people to do stuff like that, I think it's kind of cool. Who isn't to say that there isn't some kind of tracks that has Randy Rhoads or something, and Ozzy wants to add him somewhere. Who knows? We don't know. And
But the bottom line is that it's Randy Rhoads playing the music. It's Ozzy laying the vocals. So it's all the members that are there. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just that they didn't come together all in the studio all at one time, hanging out together. That's the only difference.
So I found this quote saying, once again from the great Wikipedia, other critics felt Now and Then do not live up to some of the band's previous songs. Groff Edgars, Washington Post, wrote that songs like was kind of mundane, and it included kind of reissued from the 67 to 1970 reissued. He concluded, it's a passable song and it's simply not good enough when you're sharing vinyl with, Strawberry Field Forever, Day in a Life, and Let It Be. he also went on to say, I was trying to find it. Here it is. The existence matters more than its quality. The song can't be complete to the music the all four Beatles made together in the '60s. So that's, I guess that's more like a purist saying that, where it's like, if it's not all four of them, it's not the Beatles. But then I do agree with what you said, and what I guess many other people do say. Well, it's at least it's half, and then John Lennon and you know I forgot the other guys.
Well, I mean, it is the Beatles.
Yeah.
Is the thing is John singing, Paul and Ringo went in there and played their parts. They put it together. They are two Beatles.
Mm-hmm.
And then George Harrison
Yeah.
obviously passed away. I think it was like 2001 or something.
Yep.
He didn't. He probably had the least amount of input in it. So if it doesn't have George Harrison, or if it's got barely any George, is it still the Beatles? You know what I mean? I mean, it becomes a difficult thing, because then it's like, okay, how much of a percentage this person invested in the band, as opposed to others? Because if you get like a Metallica, right? I mean, Robert Trujillo. I mean, is it Metallica still? It doesn't have Cliff Burton. Are they still Metallica? Well, I haven't heard any arguments that they're not Metallica. Nobody
Yeah.
brings that up. So apparently we're good.
Yeah. Who's Metallica? Is it only Lars and James?
I think that's pretty much what people look at. Is it legit? But Cliff Burton, right? He's huge, right? Everybody respects him. I mean, we all know him. We all miss him. We all wish he was playing with the band, right? But he's not in the band. He hasn't been in since '86. It's not like we're saying that. Oh, it's not Metallica. It's not Metallica without Cliff Burton. You've never heard that argument. I've never heard the argument. I've never heard anybody even bring it up. So it depends on how much that member has an influence with the band, where people will start bringing that up, and you'll hear that argument. Apparently, Cliff Burton didn't have enough influence in Metallica for people to bring it up. It was James and Lars, and we're good. As long as it's James and Lars, we're good. Even Kirk Hammett. You don't even need to have, because really Dave Mustaine was the first Metallica, right? But he left. But it doesn't matter. As long as it's James and Lars, apparently it's Metallica, right? Because Kirk didn't matter. Kirk came in later. Well, I mean, he's been in the band for like 40 years, but he wasn't an original member. He's not a founding member of the band. But nobody ever brings that argument up. So obviously that tells me that it depends on how much of that member had an influence with the band for people to start questioning whether it's that band or not, right?
Yeah. So for me, like I said, maybe the purists, the hardcore Beatles, the purists themselves, maybe they might not like it, and maybe there's some purists that do. For me, hey, I believe that if we have technology that can help, release some cool, unearthed, hidden, lost tracks, whatever, is it going to be the same? Probably not, but I think it's still cool. I think it's still cool to have, hey, this person, these group of people, this individual made, whether it was lay down a track of vocals, a guitar, a riff, of drums. They ultimately passed away. They were creating that for it to be let out to the world. So I think, with the technology and then all this stuff, and maybe if like I would have an issue is if maybe the significant other or the children of the person who did the tracks or whatever didn't want that to be released, and then they released it, then okay, then I won't agree with it. But if everyone is on board, if family, whoever's on board with it, then why not just give us something, give us something.
Yeah, this is. I mean, either we have it or we don't. But this is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
This is not even the same universe as that Sharon Osbourne thing I was discussing back in podcast 3. That is different. Now that is highly unethical what she did. You know what I mean? This is not the same thing. Taking tracks out of band members and then re-recording, that's highly musical, unethical, and sacrilegious. That I would argue, right? But this, what we're talking about here, we should be happy we have the technology to do this. This is we want to be able to extract his vocals. I mean, because when you're in the studio, that's what we're doing anyways. I mean, you're enhancing the vocals. You're using equipment to enhance the guitar. I mean, look at guitar, right? When you play an electric guitar, it covers all your mistakes because there's distorted. It's loud distortion. So if you make a little mistake, if you don't fret a string properly, right, it kind of covers it up because it's all distorted. The instrument covers the whole thing up, and then you're doing like pedals. You got a million special effect pedals and stuff like that, and so you know it. The studio is doing all kinds of different things, and in this case, they're extracting, John's vocals, which they're his vocals. Now, I will say this: he didn't have a chance to finish the song. I mean, he might have reworked the song.
Yeah.
He might have did something different. He might have added something. A lot of times, musicians, when they first come out with a rhythm,
Yep.
it's not the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It evolves as they work on it. It'd probably be a little bit of a different song had he had a chance to finish it. But obviously,
it could have been a different song.
yeah, but he just doodled
Yep.
a little bit with a guitar riff and a piano, and we were able to get a song out of that, which wasn't even it was a premature song. So we have to look at that too. To be fair, think of it as a premature song that was probably never finished by John. So hence the reason why it's not Strawberry Fields Forever, right? That he had a chance to finish that. He had a chance to go through that whole thing and then finally give his final word. Okay, we're done. We've put everything into this. He didn't get a chance to do that with this song. He was doodling it. He probably had an idea, started recording the idea, but he didn't get a full chance to completely explore the idea all the way to its end.
So okay, so we're on a topic, and I know you have good opinions on this. Uh, Going from a different perspective here, a different music genre. I'm pretty sure you know who Taylor Swift is.
Yeah, of course. She's
Okay.
all over the.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you know that she re-recorded all her albums because there is some kind of, and I could be getting this wrong. I hope this Taylor Swift fans don't come after me.
What are they called? They called Swifties or something like that.
Swifties, yes, sir. Okay, so there's some big, the record company or whatever has her masters for her first few albums, and she was for a long time trying to buy them back, and they wouldn't sell it to her, so she ended up just re-recording all her old, stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And now big companies are kind of really feeling the effect because the Swifties are repurchasing, and this is what I heard, and so little videos I've watched, are purchasing the new old albums that are under her, and kind of whatever streaming service that was running the old Taylor Swift, like kind of the old ones that are ran by the big wigs, are now getting less played, and now the ones that she has released called the Taylor versions are getting up, so like are getting most played. So how do you feel about this? Like what's your thought about this?
Well, first of all, it's a little, obviously she's a huge act, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not like a punk. It's not like a punk band
No.
because punk bands have done this before. I know that there's been like AFI did that. They re-recorded a couple songs from their first album and put it on Very Proud of You, right? They've done that. Unwritten Law, I think, has done that. So punk bands do that all the time. They'll re-record a song they didn't like the way it sounded the first time, and then they'll do it again. But see, they're not. Nobody cares. They're not Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, we're talking about a lot of money, a lot of money that went investment in her. So now we're talking about intellectual property, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does the record label, do they own that? I mean, is that intellectual property that they own because they had a contract and said, okay, you're going to give us this many albums, we're going to give you this much pay, and then so that she does the albums, and then she, if she re-records those songs, if they're the same songs, then I would think that they're owned by the record label, I guess. And I don't know how she's able to get away with that without them suing them, or do they belong to her? Like, who does the songs belong to? Right. That's my first question. And then if she chooses to, it's forget about the legal stuff. I mean, if she wants to re-record the songs, I mean, it's been done many times. It's been done many times by many bands. It's going to sound different. It's not going to be the same thing. I mean, maybe she just call it a different album, put the same songs together. She can re-record them. It's not a big deal because the old album from back is always going to be that old album. I mean, it's always going to be there. It's not going away. I mean, the first songs you can always get them. They're very accessible. We have the internet now. You can get them. They're not going anywhere. Maybe it might have been different back then, but it's I
I
don't know
was
why
just,
all the
I was like,
Mhm.
to me, I was just watching. I thought it was like super interesting because from that perspective, like she re-recorded, and it's under the Taylor's version. She re-recorded "Fearless," "Red," "Speak Now," and 1989, which I guess were the ones in dispute, where the company had her masters and she wanted her masters back. I thought this was very interesting because at at the viewpoint, I was like, that's so right. If a big company has is making money from the streaming services or whatever or what have you,
Mhm.
and they have their masters of her, songs, but then she re-recorded it, her fans are going to listen to hers. So now the record companies, I'm going to look into this because my wife was kind of
Well,
telling me, but they're saying
you
that
know,
the legal issue with it is now there's going to be in a lot of contracts with new up and coming music that you can't do this or something like that. And I want to look into it because I think it's very interesting. This is very cool.
well, I mean, obviously the fans are a lot of them are probably against the big. Let's face it. I mean, like you just said, eat the rich. I mean, a lot of people don't like the record. They don't have a good look, right? They think that there's rich people, you know what I mean, sitting back in the, with a cigar in the back with their feet up and just making a ton of money, and that's all they do, right? And so they're going to be on Taylor Swift's side on what she's doing, but they brought her up. They put out the money. I'm sure when she was starting, they made the investment and they took the risk. Because what about all the other Taylor Swifts that didn't make it, and all the money that went into all these other, groups or whatever or artists that labels invested in where they don't make any money. You don't hear about.
Hmm.
So they take the risk, they put the money out, and in return, they get to make the money on the back end, right? They're in it for the long haul. You know what I mean? They're getting their money back. So this we can't forget about the business aspect. We can't completely ignore the entrepreneur side of things, and just talk about the proletariat side of things, right? It's both sides. We have to see both sides to it. So now, if I'm a record label and I'm going to put out money because it costs a lot of money to put out stuff, to promote things, to record stuff, all that stuff isn't free. It costs money and it's risk. Risk means money. So I would just get a contract and go, okay, with the songs that you record, that's intellectual property. That those songs belong to us for us to make. And I don't know all the details, but the record company should be able to continue making the money if that's the contract that they sign. And if you signed it and everything, then go out and make new. Like the artist should just go out and write new songs. Just go out and write new songs and put it on your own label. Then, you know what I mean? And then move forward from that point on, and then they can make money off the earlier album. That's my opinion. But the labels are going to have to put it in writing. They're going to have to put in the contract. They're going to have to make it look nice and clear and translucent. So then that way, artists later on won't be able to do that, and they'll be able to earn the fruits of their labor from the risk that they took early on. So that's my I mean. I don't. What was the reason why she even re-recorded? She just doesn't like the label no more. She wants like she's not even on the label no more. She has a little animosity towards them, and she's just like,
Yeah,
"Well, f them. I don't want them to make any money off me anymore."
to to tell you the truth, I don't know, and I dare not say anything bad because I know that the Swifties are very protective of her.
The Swifties are not even. They're not even listening to our podcast, dude.
I'm
I
not taking.
mean,
I'm not. I will refuse. I can't take any chances. But anyways, yeah. I
yeah. Well,
just.
then
I just think that they did her dirty, and I think there's many times where where she's offered to buy her masters and at top dollar, and they just refuse. And I think she had some kind of spat with one of the presidents of the company or of, and yeah, she's like, all right.
this. You know what this reminds me of, Josh? You ever see Blow, the movie Blow?
A long time ago, yep, Johnny Depp movie,
You remember
Penelope
when
Cruz.
you
Yep.
you remember when Johnny Depp goes and sees Letterer? He goes to the island. And remember he's all you after me. Remember that he goes in there because he cut the middleman. He found out who his middleman was, and then he cut him off as the middleman and went directly to his source. So he went back over there and told him, you screwed me over, right? And then what did he tell him? He's a who introduced you to Paul Escobar? Me. Who introduced you to your wife? Me. Who protected you when everybody wanted to kill you? Me. So he's making a valid point. He's saying that, yeah, I screwed you, but look at all the things I did to make you. You wouldn't even be here. You wouldn't even be knowing the people that you knew if it wasn't for me. So take it as a wash and get out and leave while you still can. Same thing. Taylor Swift is like the biggest name right now. She's probably making multi-millions of dollars off of playing her art. It's an art.
Well, yeah,
She's not like construction worker.
Yeah.
She's not, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say her tour basically made her $1 billion.
So we're talking about poor Taylor Swift. You know what I mean? It's like you have to look at the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
She's making I don't think people understand how much $1 million is. It's it's not as much as it used to be, but we're talking $1 billion, right? The record company made her. The record company catapulted her, helped her, pushed her to make her where she's at right now. Did they make money off her? Of course, but what is there to complain about? She is the biggest name right now. Be quiet and go out and write. Do what you do best. Write music. Go as an artist. Go write your music, and then put it out on your own label. And if you want, go sign other bands and help them out on their label, and then give them a good deal or whatever, right? But you got $1 billion. I don't see where the argument is. I mean, are we supposed to talk about poor Swift? In return, she got more than compensation for whatever type of bad business that was done, whatever money she's been more than compensated. And she's made so much money just on being at the Kansas City Chiefs games. All she has to do is just show up, and she increases her popularity by I don't know how many times just by showing up. Heck, she doesn't even have to play music anymore. She could just quit right now, go on a tour, write a book, and she gets paid for that. See, you and I have to go to a job 9 to 5, right? Monday through Friday. She could be on her own, write a book, and get paid for that and make more money, way more than I will ever make just by going on tour with her and do meet and greets all day long. So let's just put that in perspective, is all I'm saying. That's my opinion about that, Josh. And I feel strongly about that. That's it. Let's look at the whole real deal. Let's step out of the box and look at the whole picture. Taylor Swift is like the biggest act right now. Mm-hmm. She's probably the highest paid artist right now.
Yeah, without a doubt. And some say bigger than the Beatles now.
What is the problem? What's the problem? I mean, mission accomplished. Done. Go write another album. That stuff is just nonsense. It's nonsense, dude. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, you're an artist making $1 billion. There's nothing better in life than making money out of an art.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
You know what I mean? As being a painter, being an author, being a writer, being a musician. That is the best way to make money, and she does it the best.
Yep.
She's won. You've won in life. You've already won. Just take your money and go. But, you know, that's it. She probably has like 20 houses somewhere, dude. You know what I mean? So, anyways, Josh, you got a list?
No list.
No list, bro.
No list. But if anything else you want to bring up?
Nah, I mean, that was that's a pretty big one, Josh. You bring up because it's not just her. It's everybody else, right? I mean, it's everybody else who's big as her. She's not the only artist. I mean, we've had this talk before, right? When you're coming up and nobody knows who you are, you know, labels will come over and they have the leverage because they have the money. Whoever has the money has the leverage. You have nothing. So, you know, they write a contract that's favorable for you at that time. Of course, later on when you get popular, then it's not favorable to you anymore. But that's then. That was before. You know, it was favorable to you before that. And, you know, did they take advantage of you? Well, I don't know. That's a good question because you looked at the contract. You said, I'm going to do it because what's my alternative? Well, not to have a contract and not do anything. Right? So people take the contract. They're grown. They're grown adults. They sign what they sign. I would just take it. I would just move forward. You know what I mean? If you sign a bad contract with a couple albums, go make new albums. You know, and put it on your own label and just be done with it and move forward. You know, because and be happy that you have the popularity that you do. And you know that I mean, really, hats off to anybody who can make a living doing an art. If you're part of that 5% or less people who can make money off their music, I mean, that's one of the best things you can do in the world. I mean, that's and you're one lucky SOB. I'll tell you, you're one lucky to be making out, and you're not have to sit at a cubicle all day long. And uh, oof, uh, you know,
all right, Joey. Well, like, I guess we'll come up on our 20th podcast. Here it is, Joey. 20 podcasts deep. We're still pushing strong, man.
yeah. I mean, we're still pushing strong. Um, you know, I we'll find some other new content to talk about. I mean, right now, I think the AI thing is really important. Especially we talked about before with the SAG-AFTRA. What do you call it? They're still on strike. They're
Yep.
still on strike.
The writers are on strike now, but I think the
The
writers are done.
last time I heard, they're still striking. They were still. Did they come up with an agreement?
Well, one of them was done. I think it was the writers.
The writers are came up with an agreement.
I think so, but it was the actors that are now, I believe. But
Well,
I mean, all in all, Joey, let's just reminisce on a couple of great podcasts we had. We had 20, like I said, 20. We've been sporadically doing them. We've done these standalone. We've done the live on both Facebook, YouTube. Overall, what what would you say that the fans, uh, our past, our present, and our future fans, what can they expect? What can they expect from the future going of the speak of the Madman?
passion. Everything we talk about, we're passionate about. I'm passionate about the music. My opinion is about everything that I talk about, and I stand right behind everything I say. Um, and you can expect hard work. I mean, it's hard working. Um, you know, it's fun to do, but it does take work too. So you can expect. We might talk a little bit about movies too because we've been talking about music. But I kind of like the idea that we talk about art in general. In movies, there's so many. That's a whole other avenue of things. And you know, if you don't, I'd like to talk about more about movies and stuff like that. Um, because it's not just music that I listen to, right? I mean, it's TV shows, it's movies. Those are all the arts. You could expect some of that. And honestly, I really don't know what 5, 10 podcasts from now, or 10 podcasts from now looks like.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm excited to see where we go from here. What else would I like to do? I'd like to bring in a guest. Maybe some people that can talk more on some subjects that they're more familiar with than I am, or they're more better at talking about certain things. I like to be able to do something like that. What else, Josh? Um,
For a bigger picture, go out as in, kind of where one of us, if we can't both meet up, go to a concert, review it, see what, live on the streets with Joey or Josh. If not both, I think that'd be really cool. Get some more footage out there. Maybe we've been
yeah,
saying doing like more live stuff. So maybe go on other platforms because Twitch did something where we can now do multi streaming. So now it'll be even more people on a broader out here. But these are just some of the other plans that we want to do. Maybe just more in video content. I think that'd be pretty cool for our channel. Maybe some of the people might, like I said, Joey has a couple of YouTube. You want to say them right now, but like for me, I have my fitness podcast or fitness YouTube that I'm currently doing, and I think it's just really fun. We have little adventures, other adventures outside of this podcast, but it's just podcasts that we come in and we converse, and it's just really awesome.
Yeah, we got other projects too. I mean, if you want to check them out, Josh, Muscle and Madness, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's got that channel. I got my walking tour, Walking the Earth in 4K. I have another one called Staycation News Update. That's me and my girlfriend going out to different places and checking out different landmarks. And then I have my fish channel, Keeping Up with the Cichlids. I haven't really put out too much content on those because I've been doing a lot of Speak of the Madman stuff. Um, so, but check those channels out if you have a chance, if you're interested. But that, so we're doing those two. But Speak of the Madman, that's the main one that we do. That's the priority. And yeah, I'm looking forward to what we got in store. I mean, I'm looking at the next podcast, what I'm going to talk about. I mean, I'm driving in my car, thinking about what to discuss, what we want to talk about, what we say, we're going to say. Me and Josh, we collaborate on what we're going to bring together at the table, what ideas we have. Sometimes I like to tell Josh, and that way you can kind of sort of think about. Because sometimes you got to kind of think about it. You tell us a subject like the AI thing. It took me a minute to think about it, to see where I stand about it, what my opinion is about it. So I sometimes I like to prepare Josh and say, okay, I want to talk about this subject. Get your thoughts together about what you think about it. So I think that helps to be a little more preparedness, because it's really pre-production, it's the filming, it's the post-production, it's all those three things right there that they get done. But the reward is when you guys are watching and you guys are commenting and you're liking and subscribing.
Yep.
That's the reward. You know what I mean? That tells me that makes me feel good, and it makes me want to even work harder for the next podcast.
And
So
and then for me, it's just knowing that you and I, we both said that if we can grow just a little community of just people who just want to hang out, chat about random music stuff, talk about bands, bring us, tell us stories, that we just converse with one another. I think ultimately community building for us is what reason why we made this podcast, and hopefully we can just continue just to keep building it.
and
Many more.
keep in mind too. I mean, we're passionate about doing this. This is fun for us. We haven't asked for anybody. We haven't asked for any money from anybody. We don't have a Patreon account. And that's just to show you that we're not doing this. We're doing this because we enjoy it, and we're passionate about what we talk about. That's why we're doing it. We don't ask for money. We don't. All we're asking for is if you like what you're hearing, to subscribe or like, or comment, because we want engagement. We want you to comment, so that way I can comment back. The gentleman earlier, what was it, Matthew? He told us, he said Silverstein, and guess what? I said, okay, fine. I listened to Silverstein. I took a couple hours listening to that band. He was the only guy that commented there, so it made it easy for me. I only had to listen to one band, but I did. I brought it up. I brought it to the table, to our podcast, just as promised. And that right there is what's rewarding to me. That's what I want. That's what I enjoy doing. I'm not asking for money or anything like that. Now, if we get merch or something later on, then yeah, that's different. But we're not asking just for money, just because, for equipment or whatever like that. I buy my own equipment out of my own money, and that's why we do it. That's why I say it's passion. It's passion why we do this, right? And the only thing that I ask in return is subscribe, like, give us a comment, and right there, that's all you got to do, and that makes me feel happy, and I'm ready to go on again and start get back to work. At the end.
All right, well, everyone, thank you, everyone, for great 20 podcasts, another 20 podcasts down the road, I see. So, this is Speak of the Madman. I am Joshua, he is Joey, and we are out. Thank you.